Disclaimer: this post is for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. Immigration processes and requirements can change. Please consult the official website of the U.S. Department of State and the specific U.S. Embassy or consulate for the most current instructions. Navigating the U.S. visa process can be a complex journey, full of paperwork, interviews, and unexpected steps along the way. One of the hurdles applicants sometimes face is receiving a 221G notice, a moment that can spark a host of questions and concerns. And this is a topic we are going to discuss in this presentation, understanding 221G with our own experience and timeline. If you're applying for a US visa and receive a 221G notice, you may feel confused, anxious, or uncertain about what it means for your application. Don't worry, you're not alone. Many visa applicants and us ourselves encounter this situation. In this post, we'll break down everything you need to know about 221G, including its types, reason, what to do if you receive one, and our own real-life examples and timelines. We're diving into an important topic that we hope to help you understand this journey. Stay tuned as we discuss what is 221G, common reasons of its issuance, types, colors, classification of 221G slips, how long it takes to process, what you need to do if you receive one, and our real-life experience and our takeaways that might help understand your 221G, although every situation is not the same. One thing to bear in mind is that 221G does not mean that your visa is denied, and it's not the end of your visa journey. 221G is simply a temporary refusal of your visa application, meaning your case is on hold, indicating that the U.S. consulate needs additional information about you or clarifications on the documents that you submitted or did not submit. Mind you, my entire body system was shaking when I heard the consular officer telling me that he cannot approve my visa at the time of my interview. Me and my fiancé being positive because we know that we have provided a complete document as much as we could. My mind became blurred, and the next thing I felt was loud silence. I got scared and thought a lot about what ifs. So if you face this situation, stay calm. Decide 221G is better than visa denial on the spot, right? Based on our research, here are the common reasons for 221G issuance. Missing or incomplete documentation. That can happen if you forgot to submit or bring important documents like birth certificate, bank statement, or employment certificate if required. Need for additional administrative processing or background checks. It can happen even if there's no red flag in your application due to nationality or anything else that the consular officer found to be in need of further background checks. Security clearance issues. If the applicant is located in a conflict zone such as Iraq or other red flag countries, he or she might have security clearance due to his or her background conflict zones. Verification of employer or educational credentials. The consular officer might request for employer verification or educational credentials if he or she is unfamiliar with the company or institution, especially if there were no public records. Need for further review of the applicant's background or travel history. There might be need of further review of applicant's background if he or she has a frequent visit to countries under U.S. scrutiny. Technology alert list. Concerns for science and tech professionals. Typically applies to doctors, aerospace engineers, or IT professionals. These applicants often undergo administrative processing without being asked for additional documents, simply due to the nature of their field. Although the color coding may vary by U.S. Embassy or consulate, here are the general types of 221G slips. White slips, administrative processing, usually means background check or security clearance. This is what I've got during my interview. Blue slips, additional documents required. Request more documentation for you or your employer. Pink slip. Security clearance is sensitive technology, often used for applicants in sensitive fields. Yellow slips. Further review or clarification needed. Indicates internal verification is needed. The green slips. Local documents or employer info. Relates to local requirement or employer records. How long does the 221G processing take? There is no fixed timeline. It may take a few days to several weeks or even months, depending on the nature of the delay and the U.S. State Department's clearance process. However, these are the average time estimates. Missing documents, 1 to 3 weeks after submission. Administrative processing, 4 to 12 weeks. DAL or security review, 2 to 6 months. Employment verification, 2 to 8 weeks. What to do if you receive a 221G? Read the slip carefully. Submit documents promptly. Track your case via SEAC website. Check your email regularly. Contact the consulate if over 60 days. Now I'll share our personal experience with the 221G on our K-1 visa process. It was last year during my interview. Biometrics and document submissions were done on the same day. Right after my biometrics, a consular officer handed me a white paper slip. I initially assumed it was part of the standard process and that everyone received the same paper, but later I realized that wasn't the case. As I waited for my actual interview, that's when I read that my visa is refused under Section 221G. I was already nervous, but reading that made me panic. I thought, how could I be refused if I haven't even been interviewed yet? It didn't make any sense to me at that moment. The paper has 2 sections, one for administrative processing and another for document submission. On my paper, only administrative processing was checked. I was finally called for my interview. The officer asked the usual questions. My fiancé's name, his job, when and how many times we met, and if he had any previous marriages. I explained that he was married once before but had already finalized the divorce before we filed our K-1 visa petition. That's when the confusion started. Although the divorce was finalized before our application, the stamp dates on the decree look a bit unclear. Not necessarily wrong, but possibly misleading. I could tell the officer wasn't fully convinced, and that made my heart race. I started to panic. I knew we met all the requirements, especially the one that says both of us must be legally free to marry before applying. But at that moment, I realized even the smallest detail could put everything on hold. Then the officer looked at me and said, I cannot approve your visa at this moment. My heart sank. I felt like the air had been knocked out of me. I was still trying to process the conversation, hoping he'd explain more, and he did. He said the case needed additional review due to the divorce decree and that it would fall under administrative processing. That was when it really hit me. I was given 221G, not a denial, but not an approval either, just waiting. And when you've done everything right and brought every document, that wait feels like the longest part. What and where exactly is the confusion in our document? We submitted our I-129 petition on January 19, 2024. Since this is a fiancé visa application, one of the key requirements is that both parties must be legally single and eligible to marry at the time of filing. The divorce application was filed on November 15, 2023, and got approved on January 11, 2024, which means that by the time we submitted our I-129 petition on January 19, 2024, both of us were legally single and eligible to marry. However, there was another stamp on the document dated February 5, 2024, and that's when the confusion came in. The date wasn't the divorce approval date, but simply the date the certified true copy was issued by the court. Unfortunately, the consular officer focused on that stamp and believed there was an overlap between our I-129 petition and the finalization of the divorce. Because I was nervous, I wasn't able to explain it properly. I was not thinking about the certified copy date because it is a required document and self-explanatory, but that small detail ended up becoming the reason we were placed under 221G, even though all our paperwork are accurate and legal. The consular officer got confused with the certified copy date, and I don't have the right to question his decision. And since there's a lot of applicants for interviews, the officer doesn't have enough time to review my document. How long did it take for our 221G to get approved? And what steps did we take to move the process forward? It took exactly 99 days from the day we received the 221G notice to finally get my visa approved. We are not allowed to follow up before 60 days. If you do, your email will be automatically deleted. We have sent several follow-up emails to the U.S. Embassy in Abu Dhabi after 60 days, but unfortunately, we never received a single response. There is also no way to call them, so email was the only option. It felt frustrating and a bit unfair. Our documents were complete and clear, so we did not understand why it took so long. They need a certified true copy of documents, and now that's the reason we stuck in this 221G. I wonder if I did not provide the certified copy. Maybe I did not have to go to that process. Eventually, my fiancé decided to contact the congressional office in Florida where he lives to request assistance. Just a few days after that, we received an email from the U.S. Embassy in Abu Dhabi asking me to send in my passport. At that point, we knew the 221G nightmare is over. They wouldn't ask for my passport unless my visa was going to be issued. We kept checking the SEAT website, and on October 25, 2024, exactly 99 days later, my visa was officially approved. When I saw the issued status on the SEAT website, I couldn't believe it. I had to refresh the page a few times just to be sure. After weeks of uncertainty, frustration, and silence, I finally felt relief. I cried not because I was sad, but because the wait was finally over. All the stress, the doubts, the what ifs, they were replaced with hope and excitement. This journey wasn't easy, but it made us stronger, more patient, and even more grateful for what's ahead. That was our 221G experience, a roller coaster of emotions, uncertainty, and lessons learned. If you're watching this and currently dealing with the 221G, I want to remind you, you're not alone. It's not a denial, it's a delay. And yes, delays can be frustrating, especially when you've done everything right, but hang in there. Strong, stay hopeful, and remember, delays don't mean denial. Your moment is coming. In our case, it took 99 days. We followed up with the embassy, waited in silence, and eventually reached out to the congressional office. And that finally moved things forward. If we made it through, so can you. Thank you for following our journey. If this video helped you or if you're going through something similar, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your story.